All right, so you've been hearing about Norway lately, right?
Mm-hmm.
How this small nation seemingly cracked the code on national success.
Yeah.
Everyone's talking about their wealth, their happiness rankings, their stunning fjords. But
Mm.
today,
Of course.
we're doing a deep dive into the how behind the headlines.
And let me tell you, it's a story that goes way beyond just striking oil.
Right.
We'll be unpacking how Norway went from a nation of modest means to a global model for economic resilience and responsible wealth management.
Right, because it's easy to think, oh, they found oil instant riches.
Right.
But history's full of cautionary tales.
Oh, yeah.
Countries that stumbled upon vast resources only to see them squandered or mismanaged.
Exactly. That's the phenomenon economists call the resource curse.
Okay.
Think of nations like Venezuela or Nigeria, abundant in oil, yet plagued by economic instability. Right.
It's a classic case of putting all your eggs in one very fragile basket.
And Norway sidestepped that whole mess.
Yeah.
How did they avoid tripping over that particular economic banana peel?
Through a combination of foresight, discipline, and some might even say a healthy dose of pragmatism.
Okay.
You see, back in the 1960s, Norway's economy wasn't that different from, say, Spain's.
Okay.
Comfortable, but not exactly on the world stage.
Right.
Then they discover oil in the North Sea.
Okay.
Game changer, right?
Okay, so huge potential windfall. I can already see the headlines. Norway drowns in oil money. But that's not what happened.
Not even close.
Really?
They recognize right away that becoming overly reliant on a single industry, even a lucrative one like oil, was a recipe for disaster.
Okay.
So they made a surprising choice.
Yeah.
They decided to limit oil production. Hold on, they limited production when they just hit the jackpot? That's like finding a winning lottery ticket and only cashing in half?
Precisely.
Yeah.
It was a deliberate strategy to avoid becoming overly dependent on oil revenues and to give other industries space to grow. They knew that a truly resilient economy needs diversification.
So instead of going all in on oil, what did they focus on?
They made strategic investments in industries like hydropower, fisheries, and technology.
Interesting.
This diversification not only strengthened their overall economy, but also provided a buffer against the volatility of the oil market.
Right.
When oil prices fluctuated, as they inevitably do,
Yeah.
Norway was better prepared to weather the storm.
Okay. That's incredibly smart, but it gets even more interesting. They weren't just cautious with how MUCH oil they pumped out. They were incredibly strategic about what they did with the profits.
Okay.
Enter the legendary Sovereign Wealth Fund.
Ah, yes. The crown jewel of Norway's economic strategy.
Okay.
Imagine a giant national savings account, but instead of gathering dust under a mattress, it's out there generating returns, securing the nation's future.
Okay, I'm picturing a Scrooge McDuck vault filled with gold coins, but I'm guessing it's a little more sophisticated than that.
Just a tad.
Okay.
We're talking about a fund currently valued at over $1.2 trillion.
Wow.
To put that into perspective, that's like having a safety net of over $200,000 for every single Norwegian citizen.
Wow. A lot of zeros.
Yeah.
But it's not about individual payouts, right? This is about the collective good.
It's about ensuring long-term economic stability, funding social programs, and investing in Norway's future generations.
Right.
This fund acts as a giant shock absorber for their economy, allowing them to weather financial storms, invest in innovation, and maintain a high quality of life for their citizens.
So they're playing the long game, thinking generations ahead. But this fund, it's not just sitting idle, right?
Yeah.
It's actively invested.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And this is where things get really fascinating.
Okay, we're back. And before the break, we were getting a handle on Norway's almost mythic sovereign wealth fund. But let's bring this down to earth for a second.
Okay.
What does this actually look like in the lives of everyday Norwegians?
That's the real beauty of it. It's not about yachts and private jets for the few.
Right.
This fund translates into tangible benefits for every citizen.
All right, paint us a picture. What are some concrete examples of how this fund impacts daily life in Norway?
Well, let's start with the basics.
Okay.
Healthcare. Virtually free.
Okay.
Education. Free even up to the university level.
Wow.
Need childcare. Heavily subsidized.
Okay.
And beyond those essentials, they've got one of the most robust social safety nets on the planet.
So a high level of Social Security, a safety net for those who need it.
Right.
It sounds like they've really prioritized taking care of their people.
Exactly. And that's not by accident.
Right.
This approach is deeply intertwined with Norwegian culture and their emphasis on egalitarianism.
Okay.
They believe in shared prosperity and creating a society where everyone has the opportunity to thrive regardless of their background or circumstances.
So it's not just about economic indicators, it's about quality of life for everyone. And it seems like they're onto something, right? I mean, Norway consistently ranks near the top in global happiness and well-being surveys.
It's remarkable, isn't it?
Yeah.
They've managed to create a society that's both economically prosperous and deeply committed to the well-being of its citizens.
It challenges the narrative we often hear that prioritizing social welfare comes at the expense of economic growth. Norway seems to be proving that it's not an either-or situation.
Precisely. And here's where their story gets even more intriguing.
Okay.
Remember how we talked about Norway limiting its reliance on oil?
Yeah.
Well, that same long-term thinking, that same commitment to sustainability,
Right.
it extends to how they manage the sovereign wealth fund.
You're saying there's more to it than just picking stocks and bonds.
Oh, much more. Norway has very deliberately positioned their fund as a force for good on a global scale.
Wow.
They call it ethical investing.
Ethical investing. All right, break that down for us. What does that look like in practice?
In essence, it means aligning their investments with their values.
Okay.
For example, the fund is prohibited from investing in companies involved in the production of certain weapons, those that contribute to deforestation, or those known for severe human rights violations.
So it's like they're using their financial clout to push for positive change on a global scale.
Precisely. They're leveraging their position as a major investor to encourage companies worldwide to adopt more sustainable and ethical practices.
Right.
It's a fascinating example of how financial power can be a tool for driving positive social and environmental impact.
Okay, I have to admit, this is all incredibly impressive. But it also begs the question, how replicable is the Norwegian model? I mean, not every country has a trillion-dollar piggy bank, right?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's one we'll unpack after a quick break.
Yeah.
Because while the scale may be different, there are valuable lessons here for all of us, regardless of the size of our national treasuries or our personal bank accounts for that matter.
And we're back. We've been on quite a journey with Norway, haven't we? From their strategic use of oil wealth to this idea of ethical investing.
It's pretty remarkable.
But I imagine some listeners might be thinking, okay, fascinating story, but what can I, a regular person, actually take away from all of this?
You'd be surprised how relevant the Norwegian model can be even on an individual level.
Oh.
It's about taking those core principles of long-term thinking, resource management, and collective well-being and applying them to our own lives.
So it's not just about nations managing trillions. It's about how we, in our own way, manage our resources and make decisions.
Exactly. Take the principle of long-term thinking.
Okay.
Norway resisted the urge to splurge their oil money on short-term gains. They played the long game, investing in their future and the well-being of generations to come.
Which is easier said than done, right?
It can be, yeah.
We're often bombarded with messages urging us to buy now or live for the moment. It takes discipline to hit the pause button and think about the long-term consequences.
It does. But think about it in the context of your own life. It could be as simple as choosing to invest in your education or learn a new skill that will benefit you down the line.
Right.
Or maybe it's about prioritizing saving for retirement over that tempting impulse purchase.
Right.
It's about making choices today that your future self will thank you for.
It's about playing chess, not checkers. Thinking several moves ahead.
I like that.
Yeah.
And it's not just about time horizons.
Yeah.
Think about resource management.
Okay.
Norway was careful not to overexploit its oil reserves, recognizing that they were a finite resource.
Right.
The same principle applies to our personal resources, whether it's our finances, our time, or even our energy.
It's about being mindful of what we have and using it wisely, not squandering it on things that don't ultimately matter.
Precisely. And finally, we can't forget about the concept of collective well-being, which is so central to the Norwegian model.
Right.
They understood that a rising tide lifts all boats. Investing in social programs, education, and a strong social safety net wasn't just the right thing to do. It was also essential for long-term economic prosperity.
So it's about recognizing that we're all interconnected, that our individual actions have ripple effects on our communities and the world around us.
Absolutely. Even small acts of generosity, kindness, or community engagement can contribute to a more equitable and prosperous society. It's about shifting our mindset from me to we.
Norway's story is a powerful reminder that success isn't just about individual achievement, but about creating a system that works for everyone. It's a story that has challenged our assumptions and sparked our imaginations.
And while their journey is unique, the underlying principles they embody long-term thinking, responsible resource management, and a commitment to collective well-being. These are principles that have the power to transform not just nations but lives.
Food for thought as we navigate our own paths. This has been The Deep Dive, and we'll catch you next time as we explore another corner of our fascinating world.